Hi, welcome back. In today's video, we would like to discuss class attribute and instance attribute. Here, we are having a class called dog. We are having a class attribute called species, and it is assigned to be canine string. So this is a class attribute because it's not inside any function or any constructor or destructor. This is for the class individually. Then we are having a constructor which has one argument. Then whenever we are creating an object, that name is assigned to the instance attribute. Okay, this instance attribute is in the constructor. However, we are having a class attribute as well. So now I'm creating an object called d1 for the dog class, and when we are passing the argument, the name is body. Okay, then I create another object of the dog class and I call it Charlie. Okay, we need to have one argument because our constructor requires one argument apart from the self. So when I create this object, this constructor is automatically called and the body is assigned to the instance attribute, which is self.name. Then when I create the second object, the Charlie is assigned to the instance attribute, which is for the second object. Okay. Now I would like to access this class attribute. In order to access the class attribute, we can use objects of that class. So here I use the first and the second object to access this species class attribute. So simply I type down the name of my object dot the name of the class attribute, which is species. And I do the same for the second object, and I use the print function to print it in the output. So when I run the code, I see canine is being printed in the terminal two times, one using the first object, one using the second object. So we learned that in order to access a class attribute, we can use any object of that class. It doesn't matter if the first object or if it is a second object. When we have an object of that class, it is possible for us to access that class attribute through that object. Okay, then how about the names that we stored in the instance attribute here? How can I access them? Because I initialized body to my instance attribute and I initialized Charlie as well to the instance attribute. How can I access them? Now that I don't have a function like a display function to display information whenever I call that function using the object that I created here. In order to access those instance attributes, it's very simple. We type down the name of the object dot then the name. So name is the argument that is considered for the constructor. Okay, and then I use the second object again, and I have again the name after a dot. So when I run the code, we see that using the first object, body is printed in the output, which is here that we initialized it. Then Charlie is shown in the output using the second object, which is what actually we had initialized while creating that object. So in this video, we tried to distinguish the class attribute and instance attribute. So when we would like to have access to the class attribute, we can access it easily through any of the objects that are created from that class. However, when we would like to have access to one specific instance attribute, it is necessary to use the same object as the same instance. Okay, so for example, if I want to have the instance attribute, the first instance attribute, I need to use the first object, not the second object. If I use the second object, I will have access to the second instance attribute. Okay, so this is how we can distinguish class attributes and instance attributes in Python. Thank you for watching.